That was a little club called Key West we got booked into because we were trying to get out of our city. Torso Column at that point, this was 87, I guess, the summer of 87. We were turning into a really actually proficient band, and we'd been playing a lot. We were pretty, kind of popular as you can be in a town like KW, and so like playing around Kitchener, Waterloo, Guelph, and then we got booked in London, of all places, London, Ontario, and this was like a whole hour away, so it was exciting, and it wasn't Toronto, which made it more exciting because, I mean, Toronto was just so big that if you couldn't get a gig there, you were dead. So we got, and I'm trying to think if it was a Rambler or a Valiant. Andre St. Pierre, our drummer, had the only vehicle among us, and we piled the four of us, 2 guitar amps, bass amp, guitars, drums, everything into that car, and I think, pretty sure Bill got the front seat, which wasn't fair. But anyway, I was in the back seat, buried under drums, and we drove to mighty, mighty London, Ontario, found the bar, which was a second floor thing, so we hauled all of our crap up the stairs. We get into the bar, there's one junky looking fucker behind the bar who was in a band called 63 Monroe, who were terminally disappointing. And on the bar beside him was an envelope that I had mailed him probably a month earlier, and it contained all of the beautiful posters that we had made to promote our gig in lovely London, Ontario, because Lord knows when you're in 63 Monroe, you're too fucking cool to do your job. So we went downstairs and hung a couple of posters up, but it was pretty much a few hours before the gig, so their effect had not been fully realized. We set up our gear on the stage, and it was, a small place, upper floor, not a huge stage. Some prior band had the kind hearts. They'd strung camouflage netting. They'd stapled the shit out of this stuff and suspended it over the stage, which probably looked fucking awesome for them. And they did their Combat Rock cover or something. Bill, our guitar player and now philosophy professor, who actually he was the smart one and knew how to do some things, which set him apart from most of the rest of us, discovered when we couldn't get anything out of the speakers that whoever had played there prior to us, I suppose in a fit of pique, or perhaps in a round of applause for the management skills of the bar owners, had just pushed the quarter-inch jacks that were attaching the speakers to the soundboard down so that they were now at a 45-degree angle and not actually connected to anything. And Bill managed to pull them out, repair them with some tape we found, and get them to work, which was pretty flippin' cool, and I will always be impressed by his ability to save us in the woods from sure death Timmy. So we went on stage. We had a few people came down from here. There was Denise, who went by the nickname Chopper for reasons that I really have no idea of the origins of that. Joanne McLeod, who was our bartender of choice in this area, who used to work up at Doogie's and a bunch of other places, and is now out west. Chopper I've lost track of. I'm not sure where she is nowadays. They had come down. I think there might have been 1 or 2 other traveling freaks that came along for the ride. A couple of winos at one end of the place, and I think a grand total of 6 London nightclub going live band seeing types came out to see our show. So we essentially played to an empty room for the most part, and as a result of our kind of annoyance with the proceedings, decided to kick the living Christ out of the place. And it ended up being probably the best performance that the band ever gave. We were, typically, when nobody is there to see, we were on fire. I ended up at some point, I started hanging from this camouflage netting by one arm, and then some of the staples gave. And then a few more of the staples gave. Then I got further to one edge, and more of the staples gave, and I discovered that now I had created a hammock for myself above the stage. So the only thing you can logically do with a hammock is get inside the fucker. So I climbed up into the thing, and with the money, and apparently I weighed just enough in those days of skinniness to pop a few more of the staples as I writhed around. And by the end of the night, we were basically having to hold the netting up to get our gear out from under it, because I basically destroyed the ceiling of the place. And that was our big trip to London. The first ever trip to play in beautiful London, Ontario had been arranged by some guy who wanted to be a manager, and I'm not even sure who the hell was on. That was like pre-Torso Core. So we got booked and we showed up, and it was a country bar, and I was wearing eyeliner and makeup and had big multicolored hair, and somewhere on my sweaty forehead there is a dent and a little scar because we started to play and somebody frisbeed one of those beautiful glass ashtrays, the square ones with kind of crinkly underside, and nailed me in the melon, from which I bled profusely. And my response to this kind act of audience participation was to basically stuff the microphone into the speaker of the monitors and put my guitar up against the amp and just like all across, tens, everything goes to 10, and essentially did what I could to deafen everybody in the place with screaming, unattractive feedback. So London, Ontario has not been a kind place to rock and roll me over the years. So there, that's London.